Hello. So today I'm joined for Simon Nott Zooms in number 14 with Dave Massey, otherwise known as Chutney Dave for reasons I don't know. Maybe you can start with that, Dave. Where's that come from?
Um, I'd like to tell you where it comes from, but I don't really know. It sort of comes from older days, really. When I used to work at British Telecom. I used to have a manager there that called me a different nickname every week, and that one just stuck. Yeah, it was ridiculous, really. It just sort of stuck, and everyone started calling me Chutney. So when I started blogging back in, well, when would it be? 2014, I suppose. Um, I just sort of used the name Chutney with the intention of going back and changing it, to be perfectly honest, because I just started doing a few blogs for my own amusement as much as anything. And then a couple of people caught on, and before you know it, and it's like, oh, it's Chutney Dave, Chutney Dave. And it just stuck. So I've stuck with it all along. I don't even like Chutney. I'm not, it's not anything, there's no great relevance to it. It's just a stupid nickname that an old manager used to call me at British Telecom. So every week I used to get called something different. And that one, not all of which are repeatable at 20 past 10 in the morning, but that was the one that stuck. So we just sort of used it. But I say I did have the intention of going back and changing it to something slightly more professional sounding. And it just took off. So that was it. Everybody knew me as Chutney. Everybody still does.
Well, she should really be punting Dave, shouldn't it? How's it all going, Dave? How's the battle?
It's been going all right. It's been interesting because for the last sort of year or so, I think we last spoke probably a couple of years ago, as I remember. And since then, of course, we've well, I say we, that's Vicky and I, Vicky, my work partner, Vicky Gibbons, and I came up with the idea of doing Trackside, which was we got introduced to each other sort of about trials day, it would have been at Cheltenham 2024. And I'd had this idea swimming around my head. And a mutual acquaintance of ours says, you two need to sort of knock your heads together and get working together because you both sort of got the same idea. So we sort of thrashed out this idea of doing lifetime paddock reporting, pre-parade and parade rings, that sort of thing, to your phone. So that if you were having a bed at home and you're trading from home, that sort of thing, and you want to know what looks well, what doesn't look well, what's behaving, what looks well confirmation wise, all that sort of stuff, then we do that. And so it's been really interesting how that's affected my betting over the last 12 months. Whereas I was probably I was probably 80% form and 20% then sort of going racing and having a brief look at them in the paddock. Yeah, it's fit. That's fine. That'll do. Because it's an interesting point to make that you can do all the form you like at home. You can go through every fact, every figure. You look at every report. But if you rock up at the races and it's not fit, it's having its first run of the season, it doesn't look fit, or it's misbehaving in a way that's not been seen before. And all of that sort of goes out the window a little bit, really. And I've started to realize that a bit more, I suppose, in the last year. And there are bets that I've had in the morning where, and listen, I've said before, I'm not a big better. I'm not betting in three figures or anything like that. I'm a 30, 40 pound punter. Occasionally I'll have a three-figure bet if I really, really like one, but that's two or three times a year. But I'm not. But even so, you should still, you take it seriously. You want to try and make a few quid out of this game. And if you turn up at the races and it don't look right, I have started getting out of bets. Whereas before I'm like, I tell you what, I'll let that run. It don't matter. It's only a score. It's only 30 quid. I'll let it run, and then watch it, finish tailed off. And I think, well, what did I do that for? Because I've seen it's not fitting. So I have started becoming even a bit more disciplined in that respect and getting out of the bet, even if I've just had 30 quid on, to sort of come out of it, knowing that I'm probably not going to be winning that day. And I think I'm pleased to say, I think maybe a couple of them that I've got out of one, but the majority of them have got beaten. So in that respect, I've sort of now become more sort of 75, 25, maybe a bit more like 70, 30 now. Sort of form. I still think form is important. Of course it is. You've got to do you've got to do the legwork before, and if you don't do the legwork, then it's hard. If you're turning up at a parade ring and you've got no idea which ones you should be looking at and shouldn't looking at. But it's definitely changed the way that I do things over the last sort of 12 months or so. And working with Vicky has been a real eye opener because I suppose I'm better known for jump stuff. I do enjoy my jump stuff. Everyone knows that. The winter game is much more for me than the summer stuff. The first 2-year-old race we did of the year, Vicky and I at Newmarket, I just kept writing small, 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 small down for every tier. You can't just write small down for everything. And she said, I know you're used to looking at big 3 mile chasers, but so working with Vicky's been a real eye opener. She's introduced me to a whole new world on flat racing of what to look for with 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, that sort of stuff. And it isn't just a case of picking the thing that's got the most size about it and the most scope about it. You've got to think about, what you're looking for on the day. So things have gone really well over the last 12 months. With the pair of us have built Trackside up to a point, where we are now, where we're certainly where we want to be. A lot of the on-course bookmakers, plenty of the on-course bookmakers take the service now. They love it. We can there's people at home that we've got as well that take the service. We've got a little service that we run for Weatherby's, a similar sort of thing, where we just sort of like give a positive and a negative, as an addition to their Bet Trend service. And now Sporting Life have jumped on board, and we do some of the bigger days for them as well on a live blog. So it's really nice that what I would call a very old-fashioned method, Simon, of trying to find a winner or two, we've managed to sort of bring it back into some fashion to some degree, I suppose. So it's been a really interesting year for me. And even though I'm sort of 56 years old, I'm still learning at this game. You never stop learning. You never
Can I
stop learning.
ask you a couple of things, Dave? So you're obviously still a form man. Is there still enough value in the morning that you still have a bet in the morning then, even though you might try and get out if the horse looks unfit? I suppose most of the time you have to trust that the trainer's got the horse fit.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, the other thing that I do, obviously, with Mr. Rory DeLargy, who I've known now for over a decade, is the punting pointers on the Sporting Life, and we put that up. We put that up at around about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, and that's probably the hardest time to find what value there is. We tend to be bumping around at the bottom of the barrel for prices, I think, at around about that time. So it's harder in that respect. I think there is still some value to be had out there. We go back to what I was sort of saying a couple of years ago with you. I think you've got to learn to do your own tissue with these things. You've got to have an idea in your own head what price you'd be willing to take, and even if the initial price has gone, you've got to sort of forget all of those mythical evening prices and whatnot, because they're you can't get them. You can't get those. You can, from sort of 9 a.m. on, you can start to get a price, and even if you like a horse and you think I'd back that at 5-1, and a firm opens up the night before and there's some 12-1 around about it, you're not going to get that. But if it's still 7-1, 8-1 the next morning, and you were willing to take 5, then I still think there's still somebody. You've got to forget the 12 was ever there, and sort of say, okay, I'm looking at this with fresh eyes at 9:15, 9:30 this morning. Am I happy to take 8-1? Yes, I am, because I think it's a 5-1 chance. You've got to look at it like that. You can't go thinking, I've missed the big price now, therefore I'm not going to bet it. You've still got to, in your own mind, be happy to take a price that you're happy with, if that makes sense.
Okay, now one thing you mentioned, Rory, friend of mine as well, but I don't see him very often these days. A few times I've been in the press room and I've heard you bickering away with somebody and arguing, and I thought, what the hell's going on? And it's you with earphones in, trying to thrash out with Rory which ones you're actually going to put up, because Rory is a very opinionated sort of fella, isn't he?
Yes, he is, and so am I, So and this is, somebody said to me the other day, a couple of weeks ago, so this is the sort of the beauty of your column, really, he said, because the two of you, it's the only column where you've got sort of two opinions, and we do have to thrash it out. And sometimes we miss winners. We missed one last week, and at Worcester, we really should have put it up as a bet. I really liked it. Rory half liked it, and we sort of ended up somehow between the pair of us talking ourselves out of a blooming bet. And it was a first one for Ben Paul, a horse that was first one for Ben Paul. And somebody the next day rang me up and said, "Well, how didn't you put that up as a bet? It was a brilliant write-up. Why didn't you put it up as a bet?" And I couldn't give him an answer. I said, "I don't know. Somehow we managed to talk ourselves out of this, and we do. This is, it's an interesting concept because obviously as you say, bickering, Simon. We don't bicker. We have
You're like an
differences of
old married
opinion.
couple, Dave. You're like an old married couple. You may not know it.
Yeah, you're not the first person to say that, and you won't be the last. Um,
I'm assuming you and
we
Vicky
just
get on better.
yeah, we listen. We get on like me and Rory have known each other for say over a decade now, and we get on like house on fire. We always have done. I've got Rory in some ways to thank because he was one of the first that sort of um, picked up on my blogs and that I could find a winner. Even if I couldn't write properly in those days, I could find a winner or two. And it was in the days when they used to have the old porter cabin down the bottom of the paddock at Cheltenham. Remember that?
Yeah.
Before it all became modernised and everything. There used to be that wonderful Timeform porter cabin down there, and he was working for Timeform in those days. And he was like, "Oh, yeah, you should come and see me in the Timeform porter cabin and say hello and all this sort of stuff." And our friendship sort of grew from there because it wasn't just a shared love of horse racing and trying to find a winner. We have, our humour is very dark, very dark. If anyone's ever recording the phone calls that we have in the morning and they make the light of day, neither of us would work in the industry ever again. I swear to God, that'd be it. We'd be both be out of a job. I mean, we have a very dark sense of humour, the pair of us. We got music wise as well, culture, all that sort of stuff. We've sort of grown up at the same sort of time, so we've got the same cultural reference points, if you like, which can help diffuse the tension, Simon, when we don't always agree. I love working with a guy. He's a joy to work with. Everybody knows he's one of a few people in the industry that's gone through the ringer a bit health wise in the last few years, and I wish all of them well because without your health you've got nothing. But he's coming out the other end now, and it's great to see. Hopefully he'll do a bit more on course work in the next year or two. That would be nice.
Now, Dave, this is all about shameless self promotion. So if people haven't seen what you and Rory come up with, where can they find it?
Well, they can find what me and myself and Rory do on the Sporting Life every morning, and I say around about 9:30. If it's me sending the tips in after we've done it, will be around about 9:30. If it's Rory, any time that morning because he's a bit more lax. Is Rory. He doesn't
There he
work to
goes again.
time
Look.
frames, which is again one of the wonderful bones of contention that we have between us. So yeah, it'll be up between sort of 9:30, 10:30 if it's Rory. But generally, if it's me, I'm very much an early bird. I tend to do all my good work between sort of 8:30 and 11:30 in the morning. That's when I'm at my best. But yeah, so on the Sporting Life, punting pointers around about sort of 9:30, 9:45 most mornings. And of course, if I can get the shameless plug in for Trackside as well.
We're going to talk
We've
about
just changed our
trackside,
email
Dave.
address to try and make it a little bit easier. It's tracksidepaddock.com. And you'll find all mine and Vicky's stuff on there and how you can join up the various services that we do there too.
Yeah, we want to talk about that because originally Vicky was going to be on here as well, and she's not.
Yes.
So it's you and Vicky together. You had independently come up with the same idea. So once again, we want to know how it works. Can normal punters get your service? Just give us a bit more.
Yeah.
Sell it to us, Dave. Sell it to us.
Sell it to us. Sell it to us, Simon. Shameless self plug. I love these. I'm not very good at doing these. So, as I say, we came up with the idea. It was something I'd done about 3 years ago for somebody else. It didn't quite work out for varying reasons. But I sort of kept the idea at the back of my head that there would be somewhere down the line a use for this, of there being lifetime paddock updates. So it's a very simple concept. Vicky and I probably go out between us about 15, 16 days a month. At the moment, it's just the two of us. We're hoping to expand that in the next year so we can take one or two more on and we can do more parts of the country on a daily basis. Because I think when you turn up for a meeting like Royal Ascot or Cheltenham or your Yorks or your Goodwoods, it's been said to me, well, they should all look well, and that's right. They should all look well. If you're not going to look at your best for Royal Ascot, when are you going to look at your best? But it isn't just about, and this is something I've learned over the last 4 months. It's not just about how they look in the paddock. Of course, behaviour is a key point. If you're spotting a horse that's behaving in a different manner than it has done before, then particularly if it's a short priced one and it's doing negative things, it's pulling, it's reefing away, it's teeth grinding, it's not walking correctly, that sort of thing, all those sort of things. And you've not seen that before, then that's different. That's something new, and that's something to report to people. What people do with the information, I would say, is up to them. We don't say, we don't say bet this, bet that. That's not what this is about. What this is it's like an addition, if you like, to your form study. You've done your form study, and we're going there and we're telling you what these horses are looking like. And if they look really well, then you're just backing up what you're seeing in the form book. And if it's not looking so well, or as we say, it's misbehaving, then you might want to consider pulling part of your bet back or leaving it for another day, that sort of thing. So we stand by the paddock, we're on the phone, we use the app called Telegram, and it's a very, very simple thing. You download Telegram to your phone, you go on our feed, we have a Trackside feed, and you just get the information in line by line by line. We try to cover every horse at the bigger meetings, certainly. So that you get a line on everything, and that's not just there for you. Then that's there for your future reference as well. So you can start to build up your own library, which is what we're doing. We are building up a compendium of notes ourselves about horses, and things sink in. You see a horse and you remember something about it, and then the next time you go, it does something different. Things do sink in. So you're not just doing it for yourself on the day. You're doing it. You're building up a compendium. Like Timeform used to do this. They used to send a reporter to every meeting. They don't anymore, which is a bit of a shame. But I think you can use these notes for, as I say, for yourself going forward. And I think that's another key point of how we sell it too. I think you can get just as much out of the bigger meetings, regardless of the fact that they should be turning up and looking well, as you can the midweeks. Turning up at Leicester on a Tuesday night, or turning up at Nottingham on a Thursday afternoon. For 0 to 70 handicaps, that sort of thing. So we think it's a really useful service as a sort of bolt on to your form study. And it's not, we don't charge a fortune for it. We're keeping it as cheap as we can. As little as a tenner for a daily basis for the sort of normal midweek meetings. We're not expensive. So as I say, I would say doing paddock stuff, 85% of the time, there won't be a lot to report, but that 15%, when there is something to report, or when we think there's something to report, that's when it comes in really useful.
Okay, Dave, do you? I'm sorry, I haven't done my research here. I should actually know the answer to this question, but do you make available your weekly findings? If a really serious form student wanted to get what you found all week as like a loose leaf or an email, is that going to be available
Yeah,
so you could tag it
we
onto
are.
your pro form or whatever?
That's a good question. There are things in the pipeline at the moment. So we've only been doing this a year. So we spent the first year really getting it off the ground. Now we're looking at expanding and seeing where we can go from here with the information that we've got, as you say, that we've built up over a year. Now, a database is one idea. My son works in IT, and when he's not doing IT or running marathons, he's working on that as a sideline. So that may be something we can do. We've also looked at the possibility or we're going to look at the possibility of selling the notes as a job lot, possibly to Timeform on a monthly basis to see if they want them. I know Timeform have their own strict way of doing things. There is Timeform language, if you like, which we don't always use in our stuff. We try to keep it in layman's terms a lot of the time. But we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So there's the possibility of doing that. That might help. But we are looking, as we say, at doing something along those lines in the next probably in the next 18 to 24 months. It'll take time because if we're building a database, we've got to make sure that the database works and test it. Then we've got to put a year's worth of information in there, all that sort of stuff. There are bridges to be crossed, which we'll come to. On an easier basis, if you like, on a more condensed basis, one of the things that we also now do for the Sporting Life is a weekly column where horses that we have seen the week before and we've made a note of that we think will be winning in the near future, we put up on there for you. Horse X we didn't think was quite fit this day. Watch for it next time out. All that sort of stuff. So that comes out early week, I think, on the Sporting Live. It's either Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, somewhere around there. Once we've done our weekend notes, if you like, put those together, then there's usually 4 or 5 on there, and you can start. And I've started doing another tracker for those, and that's another thing that we could do. Put a tracker together where we could invite people to sort of come in and see what horses we've got. But I say these are all ideas in the melting pot, Simon. At the minute, with it being just myself and Vicky, we're doing a lot. We're doing a lot of hard work on it. It's a lot of hard graft to do. We'll get there. We'll get there, but it's just taking a bit of time.
And who would be your main customer base at the moment? What sort of people?
For the day, if taking the daily service, I would say our main customer base there would be in the main bookmakers, on course bookmakers that can't get to the paddock. They really like the service, so we sell it to them. And there are some people at home as well that take the service, and you can take it if you're at home. If you are a punter, you say you're sat in front of your laptop and you are trading in and out of horses, that sort of thing. So you're more than welcome to take the service. Just get in touch with us. But at the moment, on a daily basis, at the weekends, it's a bit more widespread. As I say, we are doing a live blog on the Sporting Life website, which is again not quite the full version, but a slightly condensed version of what we do. So you can get that. You could arguably have that for free. You don't get the information as immediate as you do if you're using it as you do on the phone. It's slightly delayed, but nevertheless, it's still of use to you if you are a more casual punter, shall we say. And we're doing it at York this week. We're doing it all 3 days this week at York too.
So serious punters could add all of that to their own form book
Yeah,
anyway. So there's notes for each horse.
and
So,
that's
so a
yeah,
good
and that's
tool.
what we
Yeah.
want. That's what we want people to do. Yeah, that's what we want people to do, Simon. This isn't just a sort of a standalone service, if you like. It is in effectively, you are taking a subscription out to us, or you're paying on a daily basis. And again, you can do either. You can just pay for what you want, or you can have a subscription. But we'd like people to use this as a sort of bolt on to their own form study, if you like. Because I say, I go back. Form is still important. Form is still very, very important. It's still a big part of what I do. But having now sort of seen the benefits of what paddock can do in the last 12 months, probably much more than I ever was doing before. That's now come into things an awful lot more than it was.
Okay, so if you're watching this on YouTube, I will have all the links to Dave's to Trackside and to the Sporting Life on my website, which is I'll put the email address on there. Dave, just tell us for people who might want to scribble it down. So, what's the email address for Trackside?
The email, well, to contact
Sorry, the
us,
website or whatever.
yeah, it's tracksidepaddock.com, and you'll find a contact us link on there, which will go straight through to Vicky's email. And yeah, get in touch with us. Get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.
Okay, just one final thing, Dave. How long does it take to reset to the jumps when the flat sort of the main flat comes to an end? And you...
Honestly, it is. I'd love to say. Well, I'll tell you what. I do keep my hand in with the jumps through the summer and it makes Vicky. This makes Vicky laugh so much. I'll give you a perfect example. Let me give you a perfect example. We're at Newmarket. We're at a Grade 1 track. We're watching the Guineas last week. We were there to watch the Guineas last weekend, and I've got Worcester's Monday night card up. What are you doing looking at that? She says. What are you doing looking? Well, I says I might go. And you're at a Grade 1 track with Grade 1 horses, and you're looking at a 0 to 100 at Worcester on a Monday night. And
Somebody's
that's
going to
me.
win
And
it.
people know that's me. That's me. That's me all over. It's give me a 0 to 100 at Stratford, and I'm happy. So I do keep my hand in, and I am doing Stratford on Avon, their 2-day meeting at the end of this year, at the end of this month, I should say. Sorry. So I do keep my hand in a little bit with the jump stuff through the summer, market raising as well. It is hard to sort of switch off a little bit fully from jumps to flat to jumps, because you are looking, as I say, suddenly you're looking at completely different conformation of horses. So you have got to get yourself into a different mindset. I keep my hand in a bit more than Vicky does. Vicky won't touch a jumps meeting now until she won't see a jumps horse until October, late October, early November. I can pretty much guarantee you that. She'll be looking at the pretty small 3-year-olds. I'll be looking at big lumps of horses at Stratford and at Race, and you topped it all through the summer.
No wonder she didn't come on today. She'd be ashamed to show her face. I was at Newton Abbot yesterday. It was fantastic. It was lovely, sunny. You should come down, Dave.
Yeah. You what? Sorry, I missed that.
You should come down to Newton Abbot in the summer. And
Yeah, absolutely. She's come in. What a lovely track that is. Lovely track. Yes, I
yeah.
agree.
Okay, mate. Well, I know you're at York today. You're going to be very busy, so I do appreciate your time. Anybody that's
Pleasure.
enjoyed watching this, Zoom's in number 14, so there's 13 other ones to watch. Please subscribe and like the channel. Like I say, on my website, which is simonnott.co.uk, we'll put all the links to Trackside and to the Sporting Life, so you can go and check out all Dave's work there. And Dave, really appreciate your time, mate. Best of luck with Trackside.
Absolute pleasure as always,
I'll
Simon.
see
Thank you
you
very
on the
much.
turf very soon, no doubt. But I'm off to the dogs this weekend, where there's not
Ah,
many
back to
paddock
Toaster,
watchers.
yes. My second love. Yeah.
Good man. See you finals night then. All right, Dave. Thanks very much, mate. Really appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure, Simon. Thank you.
Cheers,
Thank you
buddy.
all. Bye-bye.
Hello, everyone. Just a quick one. If you have enjoyed these videos and are enjoying these videos, can you please like and subscribe to my channel? Thanks very much.